Welcome back to the Washington State Real Estate Investing Podcast. It's so great to be back in front of the mic, sharing stories, tips, and tricks about real estate investing across this beautiful state of ours. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to give a shout out to our show sponsor, the Easy Home Buyer, and its owner, Chad Young. I had the pleasure of interviewing Chad on episode 17 of the podcast. Make sure you go back and listen to that episode for sure. Also, make sure you check them out at theeasyhomebuyer.com. And if you're an investor in the Spokane and Coeur d'Alene area and you're not on their buyers list, you'll want to sign up on the link in the show notes below. So whether you're looking to offload a property quickly or looking to expand your portfolio, check out theeasyhomebuyer.com today. Thank you, Chad and the Easy Home Buyer team for being a sponsor of the Washington State Real Estate Investing Podcast. All right. In today's episode, I chat with an incredible young woman, Julia Muniz, who is a real estate agent and new real estate investor in the Tacoma area, about her first house hacking duplex, as well as the market in and around Tacoma. But first, I want to give you an update on our own personal investment journey. In August, we closed on a property that we've been after for over a year in North Central Spokane. So I'm sure you'll be hearing me talk about it in this season of the podcast. It had a fire in it in 2018. And then over last winter, some squatters moved in. Between the fire and the squatters, you can only imagine what shape the duplex is in. It has a hole in the roof from the firefighters and all the windows are knocked out. So basically, it's a real gem of a property. Or as my wife says, it has potential. One of the things I love about this podcast, and selfishly, one of the reasons I do it, is for the connections to other real estate professionals. So when my wife and I were closing on this property, I reached out to Tim Wagner, who was on episode 6 of the podcast, and asked if he had time and wanted to work on this property with us. So the podcast and my time producing it paid off in connecting me with Tim when the time was right. That brings me to today's investor highlight. Grow and use your network and understand that being a guest on a podcast like this one can lead to connections within real estate that you can leverage and lean on when you need them. And no, I'm always looking to add more voices to the podcast. So reach out via our new and improved website at wsreip.com or email me at jeff@wsreip.com. And we will find time to record a conversation. And that brings me to today's conversation with Julia, a real estate agent and a new investor and house hacker in the Tacoma area. She has such great insight into the Tacoma area and shares her vision for her growing real estate portfolio. It's a great conversation. And with that, on with the show. All right, welcome back to the Washington State Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm so excited to be joined today with Julia, all the way up virtually from Tacoma. This is great, Julia. You're my first guest from the Tacoma area. So I'm very excited to have you here. Welcome to the podcast. Let's get started and then give us a little bit about your background.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. I'm very excited to be here. So I joined the real estate market as a realtor 3 years ago, 2020, and I bought my first home, which is a duplex, this year, May of 2023.
All right. And let's talk about that. Why 2020? Was it the pandemic that you're just like, this is it, I'm going to go become a realtor, or was this already in the cards for you?
Yeah, so I actually decided in February of 2020 that I was going to go to school, become a realtor, and then March came around and I went into panic like most people did and was like, put real estate to the side for a little bit. But then, you know, things just kept aligning for me where I was like, I just still feel like real estate's the right move for me. And so I passed my test. And I told myself, if I pass my test my first try, I'm going full time. I'm going all in. It's a sign. And that's what happened. And I quit my job the day after I passed my test and went all in. And it's been a wonderful career for me. It's been an exciting market to be a part of.
Awesome. And was the idea all along that you were going to become a real estate agent and then get into investing? Were you seeing this as a pathway into real estate investing?
Absolutely. I Will say though that I was still in a mindset of my first home will be my dream home when I first got into it. And that definitely changed as I got in and I started understanding more about how real estate could really work in your favor, creating generational wealth. And then also my mentors and coaches. Everybody who I looked up to in the real estate world told me your first home needs to be a duplex.
Okay.
And I followed their instructions and we are in our first duplex right now. And it's a great home. It's definitely not the dream home, but we're going to work our way up there.
All right. Well, let's talk about that. And you feel free to share as much as you are comfortable with sharing on the podcast. But you purchased this duplex in May, correct?
Yes.
And is it a fixer-upper? What was the kind of the state of it?
Yeah. So my fiance and I are the ones who bought it together. And he definitely was in a mindset of no fixer-uppers at all. And the first home we actually put an offer on was not a fixer-upper. It was a great home with a separate ADU in the back. And long story short, that did not work out for us. And it was pretty heartbreaking, but it was for a great reason. And that reason was later on, I found this duplex. And the pictures, you could tell the realtor, went through with their cell phone, took pictures. You can tell the seller did not pick up a single sock off the floor or wipe the counters or anything. So the moment I saw it, I sent it to my fiance and he said, nope, absolutely not. And I said, wait, let's go tour it. And so we're walking through this home.
Socks on the floor.
You have to look past it. And that's what I was trying to paint him this picture of what we could create here. All the equity we would gain. It was in a great location. The first home we were under contract for was not the best location. But since it was remodeled, we were like, let's do it. And I'm so glad that didn't work out. Now we're in North Tacoma, which is a great market. And so we put in our offer. We asked for closing costs since it was a fixer-upper, and we got them. We got $20,000 in closing costs, and we had saved the closing costs ourselves. So that closing costs budget, since it was paid for by the seller, went to remodeling the unit. Nice. So we immediately remodeled the upstairs unit because that's the unit we knew we wanted to rent out. And the previous tenants had a large dog that chewed through everything it could, and it was in rough condition. So we did a full remodel. We took out all the carpeting, we did all the paint, we upgraded as much as we could, and I really do feel like we transformed that unit.
Awesome. Did you do a lot of that work yourself?
Half and half. We hired contractors to help us because a lot of it were big things, and I'm all about quality over just saving a few bucks. Like I'd rather spend more for it to last longer. And so we hired contractors that were willing to tell us, you do that yourself, but we'll do this part, and they helped us out. So we ripped out the carpet ourselves. We did a lot of the trash runs. We tried to paint. I am embarrassed to say we failed at painting, but a lot of the little things we did ourselves. We ordered, we went to Habitat for Humanity and got flooring and things like that. So we had great contractors that we knew flipped homes themselves. And so they really helped us get a good idea of where we could save money, what we could do ourselves, and what we should let them handle.
Very cool. And do you feel like, and I love this because when you do your first home, you do learn so much about the rehab, right? Of what to do with the rehab, but you also gain skills that as you think down the road, you can now say, oh, we can do that part. We can do that part. And your budget just becomes better because you know the parts that either you like to do or you can do. There's some things that you can do that you don't like to do. Like for me, it's caulking. I hate caulking, but I can do it and save some money versus my wife and I love laying flooring, like LVP flooring. Like we lay LVP flooring everywhere we go. And we love doing that together. And so that's always a cost saver for us. What kind of came out of this for you and your fiance? Are there things you're like, you know what? Okay, painting's not our thing. We will hire out painting, but you know what? We don't mind laying flooring or doing tile or whatever. What was it kind of?
I wish we had tried laying flooring. Okay. I wish we had tried that ourselves. We were also on a time crunch. We closed in May and we wanted tenants in there before our first mortgage, which was July.
That's
so
great.
That was also part of the reason why we were letting the contractors do a lot of the bigger things. But we did not remodel our unit yet. And so when we do, we're living in the bottom unit. And so when we do, I want to lay the flooring ourselves, but I'm also hoping we can refinish. I know there's original hardwood floors down there.
Oh, nice.
Corner and checked it out. So we'll definitely do pulling carpet again, things like that. I might be willing to try painting again after I recover from the embarrassment of what I did. Yeah, it was so embarrassing. We had friends over. We did a whole thing. We really tried to do it ourselves. And every day we would look at it again like, oh no.
Yeah.
So, but definitely that. I want to try laying flooring myself. We did not do tiling. And I don't regret that because I think our tile shower looks amazing. A pro did that. And that's fine. But yeah, it is pretty cool learning how to do all these things yourselves. We hung all the fixtures and things like that. I want to learn how to put in outlets and take out outlets. Yeah. I know that's fairly simple.
It's crazy too, because little things like that, like just being able to change all the outlets to white, which my wife always wants to do in every rental property that we have, regardless whether or not they work, they all have to be white. Yeah. But even just saving that, right? You save money in just knowing how to change out outlets, how to throw a breaker, grab a screwdriver, and it takes time, but you have time and you can go around and change outlets and change light switches and do that stuff. And it looks good because they're all new, they're all white, they're clean, or whatever color you're choosing. And it's one of those little things that you can do. I mean, it literally is a screwdriver and a pair of wire pliers, and you can pretty much, change an outlet once you figure out how it works. And I love that. Let's talk a little bit about, the financing that you got on this. If you don't mind talking a little bit about the purchase price and how you got it financed, because I think that's a pretty unique way to be thinking about it as well.
Yeah, so we did FHA. We did 3.5% down to buy a 2-unit property.
Stop right there. 3.5%. I want everybody to hear this. This FHA loan of 3.5%. And now help me understand this, and you probably understand this more than I do, because I missed this whole first-time home buyer 3.5% thing. So talk a little bit about that for me.
Well, it's just a great opportunity for first-time home buyers. We knew immediately that this is what we wanted to do. Also, being a realtor, you get to use your commission towards your down payment. Right. And so we knew that buying this fixer-upper, we needed as much cash in pocket as possible. I mean, our furnace is 18 years old. The water heaters are 18 years old. We haven't replaced them yet. We're waiting, but there's quite a few things that we know we're going to have to spend a good amount of money on. Yeah. And so we partnered with a great lender who just sat us down and we looked at all of our options, and FHA just 3.5% down because we're living in the property. And so it's just an incredible opportunity. And so I would say you definitely want to have an amazing lender who sits down and shows you. We looked at down payment assistance. We looked at quite a few other things since we're first time home buyers, but this one just made the most sense for us. It gave us the best mortgage, all of it. So, and then the $20,000 in closing costs also, we used $10,000 of that to go towards buying down our rate. So we got a pretty good rate for this year. Yeah.
That's great. I love that. And what I love is there's so many ways to make it work. Once you find a good lender, there are so many different options of, should you buy down your rate, or do you put that money into the home to make it better? Where do you bought this in May, so you don't have a whole lot of time zone on equity, but you force some equity in updating the one unit, and you have the unit that you're living in that will be updated. Where do you think you will be kind of from your purchase price to 2 units fully updated and rented? Where do you think your equity wise is after that?
I feel pretty good about it. Our appraisal came in at purchase price, which was $665. Okay. I definitely know that we're higher than that already, just based on all the work we did. And for the appraiser, he also has to go in and estimate how much each unit would rent out for. Right. The upstairs unit that we have rented out, he gave us $1,500 for. Okay. We have it rented out for $25. So, wow. Yeah. When he toured it, I believe that the previous tenants were paying, I think, $1,400-$1,500, and it made sense. That was the unit they were given, that followed through. But we updated it to a point where we could ask for that amount, and we had multiple people interested immediately before it was even finished. I reached out to just my sphere. Is this covering your mortgage,
or pretty close to covering
more than half?
Wow, more than half. Fantastic.
More than half. Yeah.
And you're living
so that's another thing.
So you only have half the mortgage to pay.
Yep. That's another thing I'll say about the 3.5% down. Yes, you have to pay mortgage insurance, which gets in people's heads a lot. But if you're house hacking, especially, you're already going to be getting income to go towards your mortgage. And I think it's way more important as a homeowner, especially, our home's 115 years old. Yeah. It's more important for me to have more cash in my pocket than to pay a larger amount down and have a lower mortgage.
I
So
love that. I love that. We'll talk a little bit because I know there's going to be some people listening to this podcast saying $600,000 for a duplex. Are you insane? But you have to understand Tacoma. You have to understand what's happening over here. And as a real estate agent, can you talk a little bit about what is going on right now in the market in Tacoma and Seattle? I mean, I know interest rates are up. Everybody knows interest rates are up. But just what are you seeing? Is it causing a quote unquote crash of the market so far? What are you seeing? What are you noticing?
yeah, so Tacoma's a pretty hot market, and we've stayed very consistent with that. Of course, homes are sitting on the market a little longer, but a little longer on average. It's like 24 days, which is not that long, you know.
Still less than a month, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say the only reason homes are sitting on the market that long is just because sellers are still trying to sell like it's 2 years ago. And it's not. You have to readjust because 2 years ago, interest rates were half the price they are now. Yeah. And so it is still a seller's market here just because inventory is so low and it's about to go lower with the winter months coming in. Yeah. But sellers are fully aware that interest rates are high. And so they're paying closing costs. They're paying for temporary rate buy downs. They're paying for points towards a rate buy down. New construction is having incredible incentives right now to get home buyers in the door. And this year, actually, I've helped more first-time home buyers than any other year in my career because there's so much more opportunity.
Interesting.
You know, 2 years ago, even though interest rates were lower and they could qualify for more, you had to have a lot of cash in your pocket to compete. You know, my buyers were competing against 10, 15, 20 other buyers for one home, and sellers wanted them to pay higher earnest money, which is more cash in pocket. They wanted you to waive inspections, which means you need to have lots of cash in your pocket in case something goes wrong. They wanted you to pay over the appraisal. Like if it was a low appraisal, they expected you to pull that cash out of your pocket and make up the difference in your original offer before you even see what the appraisal would be. Wow. So right now, even though interest rates are higher, sellers are helping you pay down your mortgage, or they're paying, you know, it's a great opportunity right now, which is why we were not shy to go into this market. And I'm really glad we did.
Yeah. And I love that. I never thought about that of being a perspective that we might see. And as you were saying, you were seeing more first-time home buyers actually have an opportunity, especially here in the greater Seattle area. I mean, this podcast focuses on Washington State. So I don't think this is going to surprise anybody that we say the market has slowed down. And what we mean is there aren't 15 offers on a home and it takes 24 days to sell. That is a slowing down of the market. And I don't see that here in the greater Seattle area. I don't see that really changing a whole lot. We're still in a housing shortage, even with the new builds that are coming on. Are you kind of seeing that as a forecast as well down in the Tacoma area?
Yeah, definitely. Inventory, I don't see picking up for a while, you know, and a big part of that too is interest rates. Sellers don't want to sell a home that has a 2% interest rate, you know, to go buy at 6, 7, 8%, which makes sense. But that's another reason I encourage people to look into house hacking, because rentals are going up and it's more important now than ever to own rental properties because people need that. And people who are intimidated by this market, they'll be renting. So I feel like, you know, buying a duplex as your first home is just the way to do it. You'll get some help with your mortgage and
you can still take advantage of that 3.5% FHA loan. You know, there's just some great things. There's some great things for you. Well, let's talk about that.
Also, you can go down to 5% down now. They just changed that. So that's pretty incredible as well.
Yeah, I'm so jealous. I never got to take advantage of that. And part of it was my wife and I were living overseas when we bought our first condo in downtown Seattle. And we bought it at the right time. We bought it in 2009 when things had just plummeted. Not that we knew what we were doing, like most people. But we were overseas. And so the bank told us, because we were living overseas at the time, that our house, even though it was the first time we ever bought a house, the condo here in Seattle, it was considered our second home. And so we couldn't take advantage of any of the first time home buyer or any of the incentives. We were 20% down. We were considered a high risk, even though we were as low of a risk as you could be. But because we lived in Thailand at the time, we were seen as high risk. We're like, our jobs are more secure than anybody else's. You don't get that. But banks, you know, we didn't fit inside the boxes. And so we never got to take advantage. And so every time we come across new home buyers, who, get to put down 5%, 3.5%, whatever it is. We're just like, oh, we missed our opportunity. We never got to do that part.
At least you got to buy in '09 though.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 10 years old in '09, but still I wish I had bought in '09.
Yeah. And we got pretty lucky. We bought a condo in a beautiful building in downtown Seattle, and ours was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath corner unit with views out over the sound. And we paid the exact same price on the exact same day as the 1-bedroom next door. And so our unit was twice as big, but it needed to be fully rehabbed, which is, as people know on the podcast, the only way my wife will ever buy a property is if it needs a full gut job rehab. She will not buy turnkey. But because of that, we literally, same price as the one next door. And that really kickstarted us, because by the time we fixed it up and the economy turned around, we were able to get out of that one for quite a bit of money in our pocket that launched a lot of our real estate investing. For sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Let's talk about, for individuals looking to invest in the Tacoma area, what advice do you have for investors kind of in your area that you cover?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I think it's so important that we just we don't want to make assumptions right now. Like hearing the market's crashing, it's a bad time to buy. Like this is what the headlines are telling us right now. Right. And we don't want to stand around and wait for the headlines to change their minds. Because when they do and they say, actually, it's a great time to buy, the market will be flooded. And so like 94% of home buyers are waiting for interest rates to drop right now, which means when interest rates drop 0.25%, 0.5%, whatever, millions of home buyers are entering the market again. And so if you sit down with your lender and you see that you can afford this mortgage, you feel comfortable with the numbers, then it's a great time to buy. The only time I would say it's not is if you sit down with the lender and that mortgage is just way too outside of your comfort zone, you're not feeling good about it, I mean, then of course it's not the right time to buy. But don't let headlines and, the fear get into you. You want to sit down with an expert, a local expert, and really understand what's going on. And so right now, I think there's so much opportunity out there because sellers are, even though 24 days isn't that long to sit on the market, they're comparing themselves to their neighbors who sold 2 years ago and had 4 offers within an hour of going on the market.
Yeah, right.
So they're panicky. They're wanting to just, accept the first offer that comes. And so I think this is a great market to take advantage of and make your decisions based off today, not tomorrow, not based on, because no one really knows what interest rates are going to do. No one can really predict if they're going to go up or down. So you want to just base it on today. If you feel good with your numbers, then go.
Talk a little bit about the Tacoma area, because I think there's still, a lot of misnomers. As somebody who is a Washington State resident for a long time, it was always the aroma in Tacoma is what we grew up saying.
Yes.
And just the different areas of Tacoma and how Tacoma really has, I feel, really found itself and is in a really good shape. Can you maybe talk about some of the areas that you're seeing the most growth, or if an investor was coming in, what are maybe some areas they should really focus in on as a place to invest?
Yeah, so I think Hilltop is really up and coming. That's central Tacoma. And so 20 years ago, that was one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the country. It's grown a lot since then. It's, I would say, doing very well. I mean, we're seeing it's very street by street there, but I think that's what makes it an exciting investment. That's the main area we were looking in at first. But we did end up sticking with North Tacoma just because North Tacoma is already there. It's already an established neighborhood. It has a good reputation, good schools, things like that. And so that made sense for us at the time. But Central Tacoma has not left my mind. We hope to buy another duplex in 2 years from now. And so we hope to head in that direction. But especially around 2020, people were fleeing Seattle and flooding Tacoma. And so same with Californians. I mean, I am a Californian. I am one who transplanted here, but a lot of my neighbors are also from California, which is funny, or from Seattle. And so Tacoma, it's a pretty easy commute to go up to Seattle. And so people are just coming down here and wanting to have more space, wanting to be able to work from home, wanting to have their kids homeschooled, yards to play in, things like that. So North Tacoma, Proctor area, those are more of the established neighborhoods, I would say. Ruston area, of course. And then Central Tacoma, even East Tacoma has some neighborhoods that I think are doing really well right now too.
And do you get a lot of the military coming out of the bases, coming that far north? Is there for a rental market type thing? Do you get a lot of out of Joint Base Lewis McChord there? Do you get, is that some of the rental market and then maybe the south end of Tacoma that's coming up?
Yes, a lot of my military clients like to go out to Yelm area and Lakewood. They like to be, more out of the city, I would say. I do have one military client that just got pre-approved and we're looking in Tacoma, but she goes to school here, so it makes more sense for them. Wife's in school, husband's at the base. So also with with military families, I'm encouraging them to look into new construction right now. There's some great incentives. I just had a buyer who got all closing costs paid for, and so much to the fact that when they closed, they got their earnest money refunded to them.
Wow.
So it was literally $0 out of their pocket to buy a brand new home that was built days before they moved in. So that was pretty incredible. And that family too, they didn't even see the home till after closing. We did video tours the entire time until they got here, and I had their keys ready and everything for them because they wanted their home to be, bought and ready so they could just fly over and move right in. So that was pretty awesome. So usually that's what I tell my military clients. Let's look at new construction. Let's see what incentives they have. Like, they're fighting for you. They want you to see the deal that they can provide you by using the in-house lender, and you to go, wow, like, this is amazing.
I like that. I think that's a great recommendation right now, especially for young buyers, young new buyers. I think there's just so much incentive, to your point. I mean, it has quote unquote slowed down a little bit. And I mean, like, giving more people opportunity to get in real estate, because you're not up against all cash offers and, $100,000 over asking, and just the insanity that has been the last couple of years. We are able to kind of, one of the benefits of slowing the market down is just getting more people involved in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. These clients too, when I first met them and did the buyer's consultation, I brought up new construction. They immediately said, no, we can't afford a brand new home. And I was like, you'll be shocked to see what you can afford, and so that's once again why it's so important to just meet with the lenders, see your numbers, talk to a professional, because it makes sense that you would assume you couldn't afford a brand new home, but then you look at the numbers and it just works out. And it's also great for military, because when you buy that new home, that means if you do get deployed or you have to move to a new station, that you can rent out that home for top value as well. Yeah.
It's I love that. A great way. What does your future look like as an investor? You bought this duplex in May. You and your fiance are living in it, renting out the other side. You talked about having a goal to purchase one in about roughly 2 years or so. Where do you see this kind of heading for you and your fiance at this point?
Yeah. So we bought our first duplex this year, and we plan on doing this again every 2 years for the next.
So that's the goal now.
6 to 8 years. Yeah. We want to keep buying duplexes, keep renting them out. We want to hold on to all of them. And the great thing about that, so when you qualify for a loan, and especially for a multifamily loan, you get to use that potential income, even if there's no lease, added to your income, which helps you qualify for more immediately. And so same thing goes when we're ready to apply for our next loan for the next duplex. Both units, even though our unit is still us living in it, we'll get that rental income counted towards our income already. So that's another great thing. If you're worried that you're not going to get approved for the amount you want, you need to ask to get approved for a multifamily, so you can see what that would look like with that extra income. So they added the $1,500 when the appraiser valued the upstairs unit for $1,500 in rent, added that to our income, but we ended up getting $1,000 more than that, which just benefited us. Yeah. So whatever they appraise it at, it's not what you have to rent it at. It's just the numbers they use, and they're typically more conservative with it. So we hope to stay in Tacoma for a while longer and keep maybe a fourplex, just multifamilies. We want to take advantage of that. We want to provide, wonderful rentals to other families and friends.
Are you thinking of being in the Tacoma area, keeping it pretty centralized? Are you managing yourself, or do you plan on having a property manager take these over?
As of right now, I'm the property manager, and I'm enjoying it more than I thought. And so it's not too bad. We have great tenants that are wonderful, and a few things have gone wrong, but they just let us know and we handle it, and it's been good, which I appreciate. I'd rather them tell me all the problems than let one fester and become a huge problem. So it's good. But we'll see. I have a few different plans for my future. And so right now I'm taking my managing brokers course, and I'm going to become a managing broker and coach new realtors. And so that'll be a big part of my career. And so we'll see how everything lines up. But if I have a lot of coaching, then I'll hire on a property manager and have them help me. But not till we at least buy one more unit.
Yeah.
It's not justified now. We just have the one unit we're renting out. So
yeah. Well, and I think that's another thing, you know, that as all investors do, there's economies of scale. And when you have one unit and it happens to be right above where you're living, it's a little bit easier to manage than, say, when you get to 6, 8, 10, and you have a full-time job and you're managing real estate, you know, and your fiance has a job, and, you know, it just, at some point the numbers make sense. And maybe not when you're starting out, you might need to self-manage for a while, but usually there becomes a point where, you know, it is easier, and you run the numbers and you can just say, you know what, we can offload this and take a 10% hit, but that 10% hit allows me to focus more on my real estate or focus more on something else, and I will make that money up, you know, somewhere else in the
exactly stream. You can't pour from an empty cup. So when it feels like I'm not giving 100% to my clients, that's when I need to step back, hire some help, and, you know, get someone in the door. But as of right now, it feels good. I'm in a groove with things. You know, my fiance has also talked about leaving his 9-to-5 job and becoming a property manager. Okay. So we'll see. We're hopeful to get a fourplex.
Has he drank the Kool-Aid a little bit after the fixer upper? Like, he doesn't need a turnkey anymore. He's like, oh, I kind of see this.
He is so proud of what we've done, and it's really awesome. I'm super grateful for him for trusting me. I did kind of have to grab him and be like, I need you to trust me. Like, I see what we can do here. Like, we can do this. And so we didn't remodel our unit at all. Like, and it's crazy how a good clean, taking the socks off the floor, you know, just putting our furniture in, we just hung curtains finally. It took too long. But those little things make a huge difference. And we love our home now. He mentioned, maybe we'll stay in it longer than 2 years. And I said, no. Focus on the plan. We got to get the next duplex.
We go house hack the next one. Yeah.
Yep. And we're waiting to do a lot of the remodeling till we move out right before. There's no point in doing it twice. Yeah.
It's a great idea.
It's good enough. And so I'm just trying to look at it as this is for 2 years. And also I'm looking at it as, if this was a rental, would we be happy here? Because when you are renting, you know you can't paint, you know you can't change floors and counters. So you look at it and you're like, this is good enough. Like, I'm happy here. And so that's what I'm trying to look at this place. Like, it's a rental. We're not going to do all the things because we'll have to do it again right before we leave for the next tenants. And that's not worth it to me.
I love that mindset. I love that mindset. That is such a great growth mindset. And I hope listeners hear that when you are getting started out in the real estate world. How do you have a growth mindset that it's bigger than now? You're building something for the future, and it's okay. I can live here now. Knowing that you are saving on rent, you've got somebody that's paying you money living above you. You're paying down your mortgage every month. The equity that you've already put into the upstairs unit and you will put into the bottom unit is going to come back. And then, you know, that just gives you other opportunities to grow your real estate portfolio. But you have to have a long-term mindset and a growth mindset around, I can do this now because there's something bigger for me in the future. And be okay with that. And what I love is I'm hearing the excitement in your voice. You're excited about that. Not just be okay with it, but you can be excited about it because you can see it in front of you. And that's so great to see and so great.
Absolutely. Something I always tell my clients, like every single one of them, no matter what they're looking for, there's 3 types of homes out there: your first home, your next home, and your forever home. Like, these are investments for your future, you know, and that's what we're in our first one. You know, the future version of me, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, is so grateful that we bought this fixer upper. Is so grateful that we lived in an outdated apartment or unit for 2 years. You know, it's
2 years, which is nothing.
It's nothing.
The blip on blip on your radar, really. My wife and I, when we lived overseas, they were always 2 years contracts. And so it was always like the first place we went overseas was Saudi Arabia right after 9/11. And the whole mindset was, we can do anything for 2 years. Like, if we don't like it, it's just 2 years, and then we can go on to the next place. We ended up staying for 3, and we probably should have stayed up longer. Looking back, you know, hindsight being 2020. But yeah, it was just, you can get into this mindset of like, this is a 2 year road stop for us. And then you don't, at the end of those 2 years, you have a goals, but your goals will constantly change as well. And I just listening to you, expect you to probably go faster than you think you'll be able to go. I mean, I think 2 years is a good goal, but I could see this, and especially, you are a real estate agent, you got your pulse on the market. And my biggest fear for you, just talking with you, is you're going to find another duplex and it's going to just start salivating like, but honey, we can do this one too. We can do this one too.
It's bad. Yeah. I tour these homes all the time. Like it's funny. Actually, there's one home I was salivating over and I loved, and my fiance said, nope, like not this one. And I was like, okay. And then the next month, my clients bought it. I was like, we did the buyer's consultation and I was like, it kind of hurts me to say, but I know the perfect duplex for you, and they live in it right now. And so it was perfect for them. It worked out, but everything happens for a reason. And I love where I'm at right now. Yeah. And so also I'll add on with the FHA, to get the 3.5% down, you have to live in the property for a minimum of a year. Right. So we could buy within the next, before 2 years. Yeah, we could buy within the year. But the reason why I'm saying 2 is the roof needs to be replaced, the water heaters, the furnace. So there's some big ticket items that we're saving up for. And so it just matters. I'm guessing next year our money's going to go towards that new roof, water heaters, furnace. There's also an unfinished basement that we have dreams of converting into an apartment, but at minimum, just additional living space. Yeah. And so with all of those, we're thinking next year will be the year to pour into our unit, pour into the house as a whole, and then the following year save back up for that down payment for the next property. If we could do it quicker, that'd be great. But
and it's interesting too, because you start playing with, and again, it all comes down to the numbers, but you start playing with those numbers where if you do the roof, you get and you're looking to move. As you are looking to move, then you look at, can you refinance that loan and pull that equity back out for the next one, right? And so you get to a point where with a new roof, a new water heaters, and you've updated the second unit, and now you're renting both units at, $2,500 a month. That's $5,000 in income. You start looking at what the equity is in that. It might make sense to refinance out, pull that cash back out for your next, and then you start to snowball that into other properties.
Yes.
It's such a great way to think about. I mean, this is the thing I love about real estate. There's so many different ways to create a snowball effect while you are also building, your portfolio of homes. How do you leverage one to leverage the next to continue that snowball rolling? There's so many fun ways to do it.
Exactly.
And to your point, like you've got a basement, you can decide, and you don't have to do it now, but that's always a unit that in the future, if you need to, that unit, the basement's not going anywhere. So if you don't finish it now and make it a third unit, doesn't mean you don't in the future.
Yes.
And even as you are renovating the first floor that you're living in now, in the future, you can even start to make some options about, okay, in the future, if we do the basement, let's put a drain here that we know is going to go into the basement because there's going to be a bathroom there. And we can put our plumbing in the floor instead of in the wall so that it's easily accessible, and you save yourself thousands of dollars because you're not having to replumb everything again 3 years down the road. You'd be like, oh yeah, we were smart. Right there's the drain. I know where it's at. We can pull it down. Here's where the vents are. And so you can do some of that too. And just have that as an equity play down the road. So it's just
exactly
way you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another great thing that investors should know about Tacoma. Tacoma is extremely multifamily friendly. They want us to convert the basement. They want you to add an ADU in the back. They want you to get the tiny homes in your back alleyway, all the ways to expand housing in Tacoma. Right. Tacoma's for it. And so that's another exciting thing is that basement. There's so much opportunity there for us, which is part of the reason too why we kept the bottom unit. So that way we could work on that basement as we see fit and just continue slowly kind of going through it. And and also with what you said about, pulling out or refinancing and using our equity for a down payment on the next home or to replace the roof. Yeah. No matter what we decide or how quickly we buy the next duplex, I can guarantee everyone that we will look at our numbers and that's how we'll make the decision. Yeah. We won't let headlines and what my grandpa's brother's uncle's friends said about the market. I think it's so important to take the advice from experts who are really like looking at where you're at, and then also taking advice from people who have been there, done that. People who are living the life you would be like, yeah, I could live that life. I'd love to live that life. You know, we don't want to take advice from, you know, people who aren't homeowners, who don't invest in the way you vision or you see yourself. I mean, you always want to, be respectful and hear them out, you know, but at the end of the day, you want to take your advice from someone who's doing the things you see yourself doing.
Yeah. And know the markets that you want to invest in, you know?
Yes.
And I think that's something else too, is like I love talking to you, you know, the Tacoma market. You are the person that if I wanted to rent, you know, if I'm looking to invest in the greater Tacoma area, you find somebody that understands numbers, understands investing inside the area you want. You know, I'm not going to go to my realtor in Spokane and say, can you help me find a home in Tacoma? He doesn't know Tacoma. He doesn't know, you know, what's happening on Hilltop and what's North Tacoma, you know, what's happening in North Tacoma and the different little neighborhoods and streets. And like, you've got to have local knowledge with that. And that's what's so great about bringing people like you on the podcast, Julia. So thank you so much for taking your time to be here today. If people want to learn more, if people want to reach out to you, if investors want to, who are interested in maybe investing in the greater Tacoma area would like to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
Social media is a great way to connect with me. I'm active on Instagram. It's Julia Muniz _realtor. I'm on TikTok, Julia Muniz Real. And then my phone number, 707-623-4703. Call me, text me, however you'd like. I host free homebuyer workshops. I do free homebuyer consultations, listing presentations. I'm all about empowering you with just knowledge to make the best decision. So whether you're planning to buy this year, next year, 3 years from now, it's always good to make sure you have all the information. It's never too early to have more information on one of the biggest investments of your lifetime. So meeting with me is no stress, no pressure. It's just giving you that information so you feel empowered on what your next steps are.
I love that. Well, thank you, Julia, for spending time with us. We will make sure that links to all the ways that you can connect with Julia are in the show notes here and over on the website, wsreip.com. Julia, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.